Hello everyone, welcome to StraightA. Dawson here, back with another video here today, and we are continuing the 32 team series with an Indianapolis Colts video here today, predicting what will happen with Anthony Richardson, what will happen with Jonathan Taylor, all those good guys, on seeing what the predictions will be at the end of the season. If you do enjoy the video, please leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and comment and suggestions for future videos below. Without further ado, let's go right into the video. Starting this video off, to all Colts fans, to everybody watching, I am very interested to see where the Colts land. I think the Colts are a very wild card team, and I think they could go very, very well, and I think they could go very, very poorly. Not to say I think they're going to go poorly. I think they'll do decently well this season, but I do have them in the more of the conserving my expectations tier for this team. I like the Colts. I like their coaching staff. I like their defense especially. Their O-line has potential. Or the run game O-line has really a lot of potential. Now I'm just kind of curious how they'll kind of interact with Anthony Richardson, a more scrambly quarterback. So we'll see how this all goes. I love Jonathan Taylor. I love Michael Pittman. Josh Downs I think is underrated. We'll see how this team goes. But they do have a depth chart here. We're going to look at it. Anthony Richardson, of course, starting quarterback. Joe Flacco is a nice backup, though. Not too bad. Jonathan Taylor leading the running committee, and I think he's pretty much all alone here. Great fantasy pickup, I think, for this next year. Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, Adonai Mitchell, all very, very good potential in this receiving core. I'm conserving my expectations, but I think Mitchell could rise to that kind of wide receiver 2 role this next year. Alec Pierce, love him. I really do. I think he's underrated. But either way, Jelani Woods is kind of the weaker area for my knowledge. I'm not actually very familiar with Woods at all. We can see what he does here in the tight end game, though. Their O-line, though, pretty solid. I think the solid O-line, especially in the run game, I think they're going to be awesome this next season. Then we have defense, and defense, especially on the defensive line, Kwity Paye, DeForest Buckner, Zaire Franklin even, like, fucking hey, dude, these guys can rock some shit here. I'm very excited to see what the defensive line can do, especially fully healthy, going through a full season. They have potential to be really, really good defense. Now, the secondary, I'm not going to comment as much on because I do concede I don't know any of these guys. Julian Blackmon, I kind of know. Don't really know what these guys can do. Looking at their numbers, they seem like a fine bunch. They don't seem like they're doing great. They don't seem like they're doing bad. Kind of just a fine bunch, straight down the middle. Nothing really to note anything of my own expertise. I know nothing about them, so I'm going to kind of conserve that. I looked up a little bit to see what their numbers were, but it seems like nothing spectacular, nothing awful. So that's kind of my overall summary there for them. Now, looking at this last season, obviously we have almost no data for Anthony Richardson. He seems like a reliable, fine quarterback who was a rookie, who is still getting used to the system, and we'll see how he actually ends up doing this next season. I hope he plays the whole season because I think he's spectacular. I think he's fun to watch, so we'll go from there. Again, there's no information for Anthony Richardson, so all my guesses will be based off of other scrambling quarterbacks I think of the same caliber and what this team can do. Now, when I get to my predictions, it is going to seem like I'm putting him on the low end, but there's going to be a reason for it. I think his touchdowns will be good. I think his interceptions will be good. But again, we have no information. Gardner Minshew and past quarterbacks for this team, for example, like, I don't know why I'll scroll down all the way down here. Matt Ryan, that's of course who their previous quarterback was. Not very good. Then you had a couple others. I think why am I scrolled down all the way at the end here? Sorry, guys. Carson Wentz, that's the other guy. This team hasn't had a good, reliable quarterback in a minute. So I'm curious how Anthony Richardson, throughout a full season, will actually give to this team. Rushing. Zach Moss was the main rusher last year, mostly because he was the main rusher for the first 6 games or so. So then, of course, he got phased out. I think he's going to do fine where he's going. But Jonathan Taylor is a beast. He would have easily broken 1,000 yards had he played all 17 games. And I think he could even have reached for that 1,250-plus mark. Jonathan Taylor is an extraordinary talent. 7 touchdowns last season throughout 10 games. This man is a monster. Other than that, there's not going to be much of a committee behind him. I think he will be the RB1 by far. Receiving, Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, and of course Alec Pierce were like the 3 guys last year. I think that Michael Pittman will have he'll have a much better role. Michael Pittman has not had many successful touchdown seasons, mostly because of the quarterbacks throwing to him, sometimes maybe to him just being a more yardage guy. We'll see how he kind of fits that mold this next season. Josh Downs, same. I think, again, he's a reliable wide receiver 3 type character. He rose up to a wide receiver 2 role last year. Alec Pierce filled a nice little wide receiver 3 role, and now they have Woods. So I'm very, very excited to see what this receiving core can do. They sprayed out some touchdowns, but they really didn't have many touchdowns, even in Gardner Minshew last year. 18 total touchdowns is not a whole lot to spread around. Defensively, they are super awesome. In past years, they've been up to 40 sacks. Interceptions, like I said, 15 is a pretty damn respectable number. We'll see how the secondary ends up doing. But 51 sacks last year. Of course, there's also goes into pressures. It goes in forced fumbles. No one's pointed that out. No one's yelled at me for not using forced fumbles, pressure, stuff like that. Those numbers are just very, very hard to track and very hard to find and properly convey them to you all. But they also do well there. Either way, very excited for this defense, and I think they could do very, very well. That's pretty much all the comments I have for this team. There's no new players to really comment on. I think that not much has changed for them. So kind of more of my thoughts will go into the predictions. I'm going to stop alluding to my predictions a lot going into it. But either way, going right to predictions. The Indianapolis Colts. I'm very excited to get into this. And first of all, like I said, Anthony Richardson, you're going to panic and think, why is this guy underrating Anthony Richardson? And there's a couple reasons. All right. For one, I like him. I do like him a lot, but I'm conserving my expectations because we haven't seen a whole lot from him. Two, he's not a typical quarterback. He is more of a Lamar Jackson type. And those types can either do really fucking well or not very well at all. If I'm looking at the little bell chart of different stats I have for the quarterback position, it's hard to place them in a very high category when I have other great quarterbacks out there who are easily capable of throwing for 4,000 plus yards. Now, Anthony Richardson, I do believe, will throw for less than 3,000 yards. However, caveat, before everybody yells at me in the comments, I do believe he's very, very, very capable of throwing in the 3,500 category. I just don't see him throwing for 4,000 with the receiving core he does have and the style he has. If you notice, while I do think 17 passing touchdowns is a little bit low, I think it's about accurate. I think this team's going to be so rushing dependent, and this is going to make me seem like I'm an Anthony Richardson hater. It's not. I'm actually loving him because 600 to 650 rushing yards is damn spectacular. I think he's going to be all over the field. In just the 4 short games last year, he was running all over the place. Jonathan Taylor going to be amazing for this offense, helping alleviate that from him as well. And while I do think he's going to be very impressive and stylistic and everything in his passing attempts, I just don't think he's going to be the biggest pass thrower in the world, especially for his first full year. Hopefully, I'm praying for that. 17 passing touchdowns, again, really low, but again, I think this team's going to revolve around the run game. This team did well last year, even without having reliable pass game. Gardner Minshew's fine, but he wasn't very good in the end zone or red zone. Sorry. 7 interceptions is my prediction there. Seems like a good number. I think you could say less just because, again, he's not going to be throwing a whole lot. But I'll do 7 in there just for those games that he does have to be forced to throw a little bit, that he might end up racking up in 1 or 2 more because of that. So that's kind of my prediction for Anthony Richardson. I know it seems crazy. Why am I hyping him up and he's like less than 3,000 yards? I think he's going to be dangerously close to 3,000 yards. I just cannot put him in the 3,000 yard category when my bell curve tells me there's certain quarterbacks I have to look at first. Anyway, going to the next one. I think Jonathan Taylor, while I am putting 14 rushing touchdowns here, honestly, I think Jonathan Taylor can do very, very well. I'm putting 14 to be conservative and not just making every outlandish prediction in the world. He could be 18. He could be 19. He's going to be a beast this year. I really think that. I really think he's going to be the best running back this next season. And I think 1,250 yards is a understatement. I think you could easily CMC numbers, 1,400, whatever. Taylor's going to be really good. He's going to have a full season with it, and he's going to show how talented he really is. 14 rushing touchdowns, 1,250 plus yards. My prediction for Jonathan Taylor. Next up, receiving core is a little weird. I am going to say, again, I don't think this passing game will be really strong. I'm going Michael Pittman has about 1,200 yards. He's had lower than that before, but I think Michael Pittman to Anthony Richardson is going to be very, very important. So I'm putting all my faith in that being his main target for the full season. And he's been, again, hitting the 1,100 mark pretty consistently. So I think going up to 1,200 with a one quarterback should be pretty reliable. 7 receiving touchdowns. Again, Michael Pittman's not a big touchdown guy. He's not. 4, 5, 6 touchdowns. I think he'll have a career high at 7. I think that's his high. So we're going to go with that. Going to put his prediction out there. Josh Downs, reliable guy. Going to get you around the 600 mark. Could be more than that, but I think with a less of a pocket passer in Anthony Richardson, I think he's going to get a little bit less love. I could see him hitting 700. but I'm just going to go ahead and say it's like 680. Jelani Woods, kind of the same case, 680. Then, of course, the third receiver, I cannot remember his name because I always forget wide receiver 3's names, but he's also going to do very well. I think he could even get more than Josh Downs depending on the season, but we'll see. 2 receiving touchdowns across the board for everybody else. I think everybody's going to get a little bit of love in this game. Maybe somebody gets 3, someone gets 4, but Josh Downs, Jelani Woods, 2 receiving touchdowns. I think this O-line's going to allow probably one of the fewest sacks in the season, less than 30 sacks, easy. The defensive line, 45 to 54. I think damn sure, and I think they're going to be damn close to 55. I think they're going to get 53, 54-ish, but they are monsters. They're great at pressuring. They have a very doable season with the O-lines they're facing this next season, so that's my guess. Again, the secondary seems to be doing well. 17 and 19 is about in the middle ground, a little bit above, I think. So I'm going to go that they step up a little bit, go 17-19 interceptions. Then their opponents. Meat and cheese of this all. This is going to be where I lose a couple people too, because I'm very conserved about the Colts. The Colts are a very boom or bust team to me, and I think in their division they can go 4-2. They can go 3-3. They can go 2-4, but I'm going to predict they go 4-2. Mostly against the Titans. They're going to, I think, sweep, and I think they're going to split with the Texans and Jags. Now, with that said, while I think the O-lines they do face are pretty easy to kind of overcome, or at least doable, I think they have a tough schedule. Steelers, Bears, Bills, Lions, Dolphins, all in the home games. Fucking tough, dude. Like, that's not an easy. Like, oh, this is the toughest O-line. The Bills' O-lines are really is fine. Dolphins is not anything to write home about. Bears, sure, they're fine. Steelers, sure, they're fine. They're facing a lot of very doable O-lines. Either way, their home games are tough. Steelers, Bears, Lions, they lose 1 out of 2 of those, or they lose 2 of those games, taking them from 4-2 to 5-4 in my mind, because that's just very, very hard. I think they split these games. That's optimistic. I could honestly say they lose both of them, but I'm going to say they split, so 6-5. Giants, I think they can beat 7-5. I think they can beat both these teams, but I'm going to say they split with the Vikings and the Broncos here, so I'm going to put 8-6. Then I look at these 3 games. I say they lose 2 of them, and so they can go 10-7 roughly. But even then, I'm conserved because I'm saying they win 1 of these 3 games. I'm saying they win 1 of these games, so I'm being very conservative. And while I do have open slots in the 10 to 11 slot range, I'm going to put them to 7-9. I think they're going to go about 8-9, 9-8. It's just tough. I think these 3 games are the most winnable games, and then these 3 games can be tough. Patriots, I think, less tough. So looking at the 4 games that they definitely win, and then saying they go 4-2 in their division, it already puts them at 8 wins. But the Jets, the Packers, the Lions, the Bills, the Dolphins, Bears, and Steelers, all tough, and their division still tough. Like Jags and Titans. Love that team. Love those 2 teams. Love the Texans. Those are all teams that could easily get swept by. I think they're going to sweep the Titans or something similar to it. So sweep another team. But, man, this team's going to be facing a lot of uphill battles throughout the season just with these various different schedules. Especially their home games, supposed to be the easier games they have, are tougher opponents. So I'm going to go 7-9 wins. Again, I reach them more in the 8-9 range for their wins, but it's still tough. Either way, leave your opinions down below. I always love to read them. I always love to respond to them. And I'll see you guys later. StraightA Dawson, out of here.